Political win, he viewed it as would be a political win for me and a political loser for him.
Well, hold on.
It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
Say it.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed
Lincoln
by
Riley?
an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
But how
look,
many people have been killed
change
by
the dynamic
illegals?
at the border.
He lost children himself. He lost them in Kmart one time. What is he talking about? Somebody dies somewhere on the earth. He's lost children himself.
Dude, it's Bo, man. He loses Bo every which way. It's cancer.
How many times can you drag this guy Bo out of the grave?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's got 100 different deaths, so that's 100 different children.
Right.
That's my answer. Well, and he sort of lost the other one, or the other one is still lost, but the other one didn't lose his cocaine, or did he lose his cocaine? We've got a guest tonight. Jason Rantz is back. How you doing, man?
Welcome back, Jason.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me back.
Good to have you. So what did you think of our illustrious leader who seems to be incapable of even, I don't know if he had notes or reading a card, but it's Lakin. Help everybody out. It's not Lincoln, it's Lakin.
Yeah. He should have obviously known that, because that was all obviously staged. He was ready for that. And he look, at the end of the day, Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of walked into it, and she was saved in a lot of ways by the fact that he botched the response so spectacularly. But they knew that this was going to come, and so they tried to take advantage of it. But I think anyone who even knows a little bit about this particular story knows the name is not Lincoln. And anyone who's smart enough to follow anything surrounding illegal immigration and policy under this president knows that what he was saying yesterday was just lying. I mean, he's a really good gaslighter, except it's not really good. He thinks he's good because everyone knows exactly what it is he's doing.
Well, usually a gaslighter gets an entire sentence out. He kind of is like, I'm going to burn you with my...
Yeah.
it just falls short. But don't worry, you can always, raise a heckle, and they'll just arrest you and toss you out, like as if it's Russia or something.
Well, just to go back to the Green thing for a second, she's the one who gave him the pin, which I thought was a blunder on her part, because he yanks out the pin from underneath the counter, unless Jason thinks that was already set up beforehand. I don't know. I thought that because a bunch of other Democrats turned down the pin, including Mayorkas, the bald-headed weasel, who apparently is he a Cuban Jew, Jason? Is that?
Oh, he says he's a Jew, remember? I see he was criticized.
Oh, right. He said
his mother was in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if his mother is Jewish, then he is Jewish. He doesn't really talk about that too much, but I vaguely remember him bringing that up.
Yeah.
But I think it was set up in the sense that not that they had that pin there ready. I think that they had prepped Biden that something like this were to occur. If it does happen, here's what you need to do. Turn it around on them. And I think that's what he was ready for.
I'll buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mayorkas, by the way, he only brings up his heritage if he's being criticized for his job. Has nothing to do with his job whatsoever, but he's going to bring that up as a shield, because that's what folks do on that side. Is they go, I'm this characteristic, I'm black, and you're picking on me, or I'm this,
Jason, I have a new name for it. It's called Ginos, Jews in name only, and and it's people like Soros and others who invoke the Judaism when attacked as the last refuge of a scoundrel.
Yeah, and I think we've obviously been seeing that with the Jewish Voices for Peace, these folks who I don't think have ever had a bar or bat mitzvah at all. And yet they are claiming their Judaism only because it is politically advantageous for their cause. But dare I say that if you invoke Judaism, of which you do not actually believe in, so that you can help destroy the state of Israel, I'm not going to grant you any sort of acknowledgement as a Jew.
Right. I'm with you on that one. I mean, look, I don't know when this happened, but Biden started airlifting aid into Gaza like it's the Berlin airlift in 1961. And now they've crushed to death the Palestinians who were receiving. Am I making this up, or did this really happen?
I saw those reports earlier today. I didn't see any update on it. I've certainly seen some of the video. You don't actually see anyone getting crushed, but there were certainly some videos of some of the packages coming down, which seemed to go awfully fast. So, I will
look, if they had used the Chinese balloon, Jason, it may have come down better onto the Gaza.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit sturdier, I suppose. I suppose they're trying to help. I don't think it's going to help all that much, given some of the details that we've heard about how few resources are actually a part of these drops. But I suppose it's better than nothing, and it gets people to stop complaining about a lack of resources going in because the evil Jews, I guess, are stopping it. That has nothing to do with any of this. And that we still have folks who are refusing to acknowledge the evil and the corruption coming from Hamas is absolutely maddening to me.
It is. It's maddening to me too. It's maddening to a lot of us. It's craven. It's disgusting. I mean, they sat there. I think part of the squad yesterday during the State of the Union address with some protest signs in the audience. I don't know if that's allowed. Are you now allowed to bring in protest signs to the State of the Union address? I didn't know that was allowed, but apparently you can.
Well, it was funny because yesterday Congressman Jamie Raskin was saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene was in violation of some policy because of what she was wearing. And the
right, that's why I'm mentioning it. So, yeah.
If they're going to go after her, maybe go after Rashida Tlaib, and I think Bush also had one of them.
Or go to the Senate and go after freaking Fetterman for his wardrobe.
Right, yeah. Although, is he dressing any better now? It's still the same. It's the populist Fetterman who's come out of nowhere.
He's been kind of back and forth. I've seen him in a poorly fitted suit a few times, so I do think he's at least trying in some cases. And I'll be totally honest, as much as I disagree with him on like 99% of the issues, he's been very strong on Israel and calling out Hamas and going, shockingly so.
Shockingly so.
Very happy with that. So I don't want to hit him.
Oh, Fetterman. Maybe he's got a son who was bar mitzvah at the Wailing Wall or something that we don't know about. Fetterman kind of sounds Jewish, Jason.
Well, tell him your theory, Mark.
I don't know if he's Jewish, but he's certainly making this Jew proud. So I appreciate that.
Right.
Well, tell him your theory about maybe he got away from the wife when he was getting treatment.
Yeah. I think the wife was running that show in some honeypot operation. Something was going on with that wife. Which is not uncommon. Ask Mitch McConnell, ask a bunch of others who have wives who are running some operations against them. And I think that might have been the case with Fetterman because he suddenly wakes up when he separates himself physically from that wife.
Yeah,
well, at least on this topic.
On this topic, anyway.
All right. Well, I've got another story pulled up. I thought it would be great for the pair of you with your left coast. And this is in California. Activist group is paying public high schoolers in California to become social justice warriors.
Why not? Why should they do it for free, Jason?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you're already exploiting them, you might as well at least pay them because otherwise you're just falling into that capitalism trap that they always complain about. It's interesting because I saw the story as well. It's not all that uncommon. I mean, certainly we're not seeing a whole lot of groups paying students to go ahead and do this, but I mean,
it seems contrary, paying them for work.
I know, but at least well, again, you can't be a socialist and then get away with not paying these folks. I just want to. Is it a living wage?
Are there child labor laws? Are there child labor laws being violated here?
People should pay attention. This stuff is happening a lot, and just for my own radio show, doing some research into this locally, I find school after school after school basically pushing very specific opportunities to join different campaigns and movements under this guise that we're just trying to allow these kids to become, better, civic citizens and participating in ways that they can. And while I certainly appreciate that, if all of the resources you're sending to these kids happens to push them into far left campaigns, you're probably not doing it for the right reasons.
Totally agree. Now, I know we have very limited time with Jason because he has his own show coming up. So Did you guys want to talk about what's going on with Oregon? I think you said some law got repealed. Something.
Yeah, what is going on up there, Jason, with the recriminalization of hard drugs and into the southern region below your life up there?
Yeah, so a few years ago, Oregon passed a measure 110, and it was passed pretty spectacularly thanks to Multnomah County, where Portland is. 60% of the state voted to essentially, quote unquote, decriminalize the personal possession of illicit substances. And we're talking all of them across the board. So heroin, fentanyl, meth. And as you can imagine, it's been a total and utter nightmare. It has fueled the overdose crisis. You're seeing historic rise of fatal overdoses. I think the statistic was over the last 3 years, a 1,500% increase in fatal drug overdoses. The homelessness crisis has worsened as a result. And of course, the crime that's associated with drug use and homelessness has gotten worse. And so finally, after residents for about the last year or so have been screaming to change course, the state legislature actually did this. And so what they've done is, and over the course of the next month, we'll get a signature from the governor, Tina Kotek. But what we have seen is that they keep pushing this specific idea of you get to choose as a drug addict once you're arrested. You go to jail or you go to treatment. I like that in a general sense, so long as you actually have the treatment available, and they don't have the treatment available in any meaningful way, at least in Portland at this point. And you don't even have enough police officers who are going to be able to go out there and actually make arrests and push people in the right direction. It is a step in the right direction, though, to be clear. And I'm really glad that they did this.
Well, the drug courts, which very few people mention any longer, I don't even think the drug courts are working anymore, because some people are moving away from that model. That model had you pleading guilty to whatever you were arrested for, giving up your constitutional rights on the spot, with your public defender in cahoots with the district attorney's office and the judge to remand you to rehab, where if you tested dirty X amount of times, you were then incarcerated. That is the drug court system. I don't know if it's still functioning any longer.
Certainly not that way. So I can tell you, especially in the Pacific Northwest, but you'll probably see this in most Democrat-heavy areas. The drug courts are essentially, you agree to go into drug treatment and you don't face any charges whatsoever. It all basically goes away. The problem, however, again, particularly up here, is that there was no oversight. And so a judge would offer this up to someone, usually who's homeless and an addict. They just wouldn't go. And that was it. No one was really tracking it. No one was following up. No one was trying to, just from a social worker perspective, connect with these people and push them into it. And then, of course, ultimately say, okay, well, you're going to suffer consequences then if you don't follow the court's order. None of that happened, period. And so, again, you just enabled these drug users and made the problem worse, because it turns out that they know that you're not going to punish. So they have no real incentive to stop. These are people who obviously haven't hit rock bottom in their own heads, even though they're living outside in squalor.
Well, it's weird because the left seems to believe that just offering wraparound services will bring the addict to their senses, and they will take them up on the offer, quit using drugs, and begin using the multi-million-dollar wraparound services. I don't know what happened to Proposition 1 down here. I voted no. Most people I know voted no.
It does not work anywhere.
Right. Okay.
It does not work anywhere, this approach. It's a harm reduction approach. I've been covering this for a very long time. I have it covered in a chapter of my book. Like this idea that we're just going to hand out drug paraphernalia and gain the trust of the individual and then ultimately convince them to go into treatment. If they had stats to back themselves up, guess what they would lead with? The stats. And you never hear any of these organizations telling you that, after a year, we put, 42% of the people who reach out to us for clean needles and for booty bumping kits and fentanyl pipes, they went into treatment and they were successful. None of that exists.
Right.
They never put it out there.
Well, the booty bumping kit that I've used is a little bit better than the standard one. So it depends where you get your booty bumping kits from, as you're well aware.
I could have lived my whole life without learning about that.
No, Rantz brought it up, so I'm going to have to roll with it. I downloaded mine and printed it out a couple of weeks ago to keep all the stuff together, the directions.
It's so bad I can't even show the pictures on YouTube because it's just like,
My God, if you can hear me, I have completely lost you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, we see you and hear you.
Yep.
We see and hear. We see and hear. Oh, now he's gone out.
Okay.
Well, that might be the end of the Rants episode. He had to leave anyway.
Short rant, but
it's a short rant with rants. What we should call it, the rant with rants.
There you go. Yeah, because it'll always be short. And we have.
He's back. Okay.
There we go. I took myself off Wi-Fi. I made a mistake. The one thing people know who work in radio, Wi-Fi never works in radio. I don't know why. I've never been to a radio studio in which Wi-Fi actually works. It's almost like you have to connect to the internet on a regular basis.
That's funny.
Wi-Fi doesn't work anywhere, dude. It's not just radio. Trust me. If you can't plug into the router, this is the tip of the day for anybody who wants to stream. Plug into the cable box, router, whatever you're using, plug directly in. I promise you have to. Otherwise, it's just ridiculous.
So what is going on?
If it doesn't work, you have to unplug and wait 30 seconds and let it do a power cycle.
What is going on in Seattle right now in terms of Democratic progressive politics that you love so much up there?
Yeah, I mean, so the council in this last election actually trended to the moderate side. Now, at least in practice, we'll see whether or not they're truly moderate, but certainly in rhetoric, they are moderate. The new council president is someone who is very, very pro-business. She has been the only voice on the council. She's one of the returning council members, the incumbents, who has really been pushing forward with like reasonable policies that are without politics attached, or as best as you can.
Wow.
She's someone who actually thinks homeless people shouldn't be smoking fentanyl in parks. And if you break the law, you should actually go to jail. I know, I'm shocked myself. So at least right now, things feel like they're going to go in the right direction. But the problem is the crisis is so serious and has been here so long. It's no longer just a flip of the switch. You're going to go back to normal, right? I mean, we've seen cultural changes in Seattle, like we've seen, really across the country. And when you see cultural changes, when it comes to drug use, homelessness, lawlessness in a general sense, man, it is not easy to reverse course and go back on that right direction. And so my fear is that here, Portland, New York, Chicago, it's going to take possibly years before we get back to the way things were.
Wow. Well, here they're cleaning up left and right because we figured out the Olympics is coming. So they have decided to disappear the homeless. I don't know if they're coming up by you or they sent them to San Bernardino, but they're cleaning up all of the freeway access ramps that the governor can control through the highway patrol.
Because he had practice for China.
He had some practice for the Chinese visit of the prime minister or the premier of China. He sent a group of these guys up to Oakland. They only stayed about 5 days, the highway patrol, then they split. Unlike what Hochul's done in New York, this is something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. This video of these armed, fully militarized National Guard in the 42nd Street subway during rush hour, checking people's bags for crime reasons, not for terrorist reasons, was one of the strangest things I've ever seen as an ex-New Yorker.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of which, that came off of our next guest feed, Phil.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, here's some footage of it. Holy crap! Get a load of these military guys. I don't know if he's got the same.
These guys, yeah.
Yeah, here they are. Here they are.
They hired the TSA for New York subways.
Wow.
Certainly sends a message.
You think? This is like getting on an airplane now. You got to get on a subway for $1.50. Holy
the thing
mackerel.
is, I mean, obviously it sends a message, but the problem is, of the people who are bringing bags, they're not the ones who have been breaking the law, right? I mean, we're talking a lot of times about drug out criminals, petty criminals who are throwing people onto the platform. I mean, there's no one reaching into their purse and then pulling out a gun or a knife.
No, it's just silly.
It's telling them though that they take this seriously after the last 2.5-3 years in which they pretended we didn't have a crisis in New York. So they're sort of overcorrecting in a way that I think most people probably will respect for a little bit, and then they'll just start to get annoyed. But in the short term, I think most people are willing to put up with something like this to maybe tell the bad guys, maybe you shouldn't do this anymore.
I don't know. I have a theory about this. Number one, they already know how to fix it. Giuliani did it in the 90s. And
the 80s.
Yeah, or sorry, no, it was the 90s, I thought.
Okay.
But anyway, whatever. Giuliani showed him the way to do it. Just how about when you arrest the people, you book them and they go to jail for a while, and you stop people who are doing things like fair jumping, the ones who are jumping over the turnstiles, things like that. And you go, oh, look at that. You happen to have a knife with you. Oh, look at that. There's an outstanding warrant for you. You know, all those standard things. This right here, I think, is deliberate. They let everybody get scared. And then guess what? Now they're going to come in and save you. All they're doing is offering government oppression. They love having the government. And my theory is this is all deliberate. The mayor of Chicago, same thing. Oh, you know, all the grocery stores are leaving town. I've got a solution. The government's going to take over the grocery store. So if you really look at it, this works well in a strategy to have government control over the people.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in the case of just New York, keep one thing in mind, because I'm just waiting for it to happen. I think that the whole random bag check is a way to get around this. If they were to be more hyper-focused, you're going to get accused of disproportionately targeting, insert whatever group you'd like to that's from a marginalized community. And that's where she'll fall into a trap. And I'm not saying that I don't think that this is also about government control, because I think generally that's what Democrats will do. But I do wonder if this is at least in part about avoiding the whole stop and frisk issue. And
it's already come up, Jason. You're right.
Has it? Yeah, I had the over under at 3 days as to when someone was going to make this.
You take
argument.
the under. It was 2 days.
Yeah, I should have made the under over under 1 day.
1 day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, fair enough. But you don't have to stop and frisk if somebody jumps the turnstile. They broke the law. They did a crime. You're not just stop and frisk had a problem because of probable cause. You have no reason to do this. Why are you doing it? But if they jump a turnstile, or they do something stupid, or they're on top of a train fornicating, I think you could probably arrest them. I don't know.
Wait a minute. I didn't know the train was moving, Eric. I just got up there with some other friends. I think that's a cheap shot.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, how long can you keep the National Guard in the 42nd Street subway station? This looks like a political stunt, Jason.
I mean, it is a political stunt, right? I mean, anything a politician does is a political stunt. And the question is how long this is going to last. And so if this is going to be for a week, then yes, it's very clearly a political stunt. But I do think that if you're starting to see better results of people feeling more comfortable going into the subway, then I think you can slowly walk this back. You're just really setting a standard. I'm not yet willing to completely write this off, only in the sense that we very clearly have seen a slight change in rhetoric coming from Kathy Hochul and Eric Adams. It's not dramatic. It's slow go. It's baby steps. But you have to start somewhere. And politically speaking, both of them are in tough positions. These are partisans who don't want to, slap the face of the Biden administration. And so they're trying to work around that. And I give them just a little bit of leeway.
Well, I mean, they have pushed back when the Biden administration has pushed back when they've had their face slapped by
Eric Adams.
Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Adams. The FBI raided yet another member of his staff last week. Clearly, he didn't get the message.
Yeah, well, he might also just be corrupt.
Yeah, I know, which is definitely true. Somehow he's hooked up with a Turkish construction lobby. Who knew there was even a construction lobby from Turkey in Queens, New York? I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, you didn't know? I thought that was common knowledge.
I didn't even know there were Turks there. I said, where do they live? They live in Astoria, which used to be the Greeks. And somehow the Turks have displaced the Greeks now, and they've got access to the mayor.
Didn't that kind of happen with Constantinople and everything else, like back and forth anyway? Sometimes
I don't know,
sometimes it's a Turk. So this is just, what is old is new. But Jason, I know you have a hard out, and I don't want to hold you up any longer in case you have to do anything before you get on the show. Everybody, he has an outstanding book. I have put a link in.
Oh, yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book.
Yes,
yeah. I like the audio version because you're reading it.
Yeah,
I only get audio books when the author is reading it for some reason. I find that really good.
No, he does
Just
have
know
audio and otherwise.
that was the worst process for anyone to read their own book.
It's painful.
It was like 12 hours. I didn't leave.
That's
there for
why
2
I
days.
haven't done mine,
Oh.
Hunley. Eric keeps asking me about mine. I'm not doing it. Look at this man.
You're
He's
going to be
still
doing
in
it.
pain.
Skip
He's
it.
still in
Skip it.
pain.
You will be
Buy the
doing it. You just
hardcover.
won't know you did.
Yeah, use your AI tools, Hunley.
I'm going to probably.
You get a call from my mother from the afterlife. Jason, thanks for having me on this morning. That was a lot of fun. I hope to do it again. Hope to have you back again. It's great to have you as a regular guest on the show, just to let us know what the hell's going on up there in that crazy communist Northwest.
I appreciate it. I always have content.
All right.
Thank you, Jason.
We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time, sir.
We'll see you next time.
All right. So moving to the next thing. What do we have? You know what? Maybe we should
Why don't we do some news? You have any news of the week or?
Well, we've been dropping news in here a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Let's I want to talk about really quickly before we get deep in the show with Phil. How about Youngstown?
That in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I'd have to say, beam me up. And I think these screw supervisors all work for the Internal Revenue Service.
All right, that's why
I got to download
green.
the map on how to get there. Go ahead.
That's why I'm wearing green. It's in the theme because it's going to be St. Patty's Day in Youngstown. A week from today,
Oh
we
my
will be
God.
doing Freeform Friday with
Dear Lord.
Oswald, who's
What?
looking out for us in Youngstown. It's hard to
Well,
believe that.
it's also the Ides of March, which we have to beware for reasons that Shakespeare never explained.
Absolutely.
We got the
Absolutely.
Ides of March. We got the Ohio primary on Tuesday, the 19th. We got political mumbo jumbo going on throughout Ohio. I'd love to find Dennis Kucinich and find out what rock he's hiding under, running for Congress over there.
Yeah, totally agree. Actually, the primary is kind of a moot point. Somebody finally said they're suspending their campaign.
Yes, but there's other races in Ohio, Eric, right? Or no?
Yes, there's actual election there.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
The Trump endorsed candidate for Congress.
Yeah.
Is running. He'll be there on that day to take over. I think what was the Trafficant seat back in the day.
No, really?
I think it's the same seat.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So hopefully they'll get that. We keep trying to see if we can talk to the campaign. Maybe they'll come by. Who knows?
Maybe we could do a little radio when we get into town. You know what I mean? On Thursday or Friday afternoon or something. Or, we're gonna have we're gonna have the regular Freeform Friday next Friday, right?
Yes, we
and
will.
that'll be from some undisclosed bunker or something somewhere, or
it might be from the stage.
From the stage itself of where the show is. You're saying
correct? Yeah.
Right. So how do the people get tickets? It doesn't have tickets, right? That's just a regular show.
Yeah, right there. This is the meetup and live show. People can actually point their phone at it, scan, boom, and go. I also have links a link in the description.
But this is on Sunday, you're saying. This live show is on Sunday. It's a little confusing. So Friday,
we're just going to be there.
Well, we're going to do a show on Friday from there.
We will be doing a show from there or somewhere in the area, but it's you and I, our standard Freeform Friday. The show with an audience is Sunday.
Oh, that's a live show with a live drunken audience, you're saying?
Well, they may be drunk.
Oh, they're going to be drunk, Hunley. There's no way. You don't even know my people. My people will be coming out of the woodwork to get drunk on Sunday. So, which I don't mind. I don't care. Bring it on. I mean, my Irish eyes will be smiling upon the great people of Youngstown, Ohio, or the Irish who may come out in droves anyway, just for the St. Patty's festivities on Sunday.
All right. Well, perfect. Before we get into the rest of the news, we'll catch up on the story that never, ever, ever is going to end. We have with us Phil Holloway to bring us up to date.
Okay. What does he got?
Fabulous Fani.
Hey,
What's going on?
No, happy to be here with you.
The Fani report.
It's
the special segment every week.
The Fani Chronicles or something.
The Fani Chronicles.
Yeah, we got to come up with a name. I don't know that Fani Chronicles is the name, but there's got to be one. We'll put our heads together and come up with something for at least a weekly report or something like that. But look, Atlanta is now, of course, the legal laughing stock of the entire country, and in fact, I think the world. Good news, though. Today we learned that there are not one, but two people running against Fani Willis for her job. One is a Democrat, one is a Republican. So she's going to have to fight off a primary challenger here in a couple of months. And of course, she's going to have to fight off the Republican challenger through the general election in November. So look, if she gets disbarred or gets arrested or has some other reason that she can't continue to serve in office, then, the things could get very, very interesting around here. So buckle up and fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be a wild ride.
Phil, was there an ethics committee that dropped the investigation against her this morning or yesterday? I didn't finish that article.
Well, thanks for asking that. It's a great question that a lot of people have been asking, and I think it's a good time to try to clear it up.
Okay.
Fani Willis is an elected district attorney, of course, and under the Georgia Constitution, the office of district attorney is created along with many other offices like sheriffs and things like that. So we call them constitutional officers. She gets a paycheck from Fulton County, but she's not an employee of Fulton County. So the county commission can't fire her or anything like that.
Okay.
So the ethics board for Fulton County sort of, it's their job to police the ethics of county employees. If you're the head of watershed management and you're giving out lucrative no-bid contracts to your boyfriend, and then he's flying you around the world with the money that you paid him, then that could be an ethical problem that the county board could look at. The state also has a ethics board. They mostly focus on campaign finance issues and things like that. So the board decided yesterday, and correctly, I think, in my view, but unfortunately, they don't have the power or jurisdiction to do anything with Willis. So it's going to be up to the State Bar of Georgia. It's going to be up to perhaps the Attorney General if there's a criminal probe, the State Ethics Board, and of course, it's now obviously up to the voters to police Fani Willis and any misbehavior that she might be engaged in.
Wait, did somebody bring suit against Fani trying to get like a state FOIA request or something that he wanted?
Yeah.
That's where this came from, right? It was a lawsuit by someone in the Trump case.
The only FOIA or Open Records Act, as we call it here in Georgia, the only Open Records Act lawsuit that I'm aware of, now there easily could be more because that office stalls the open records requests. They routinely deny them, perhaps even in illegal ways. Attorney Ashley Merchant, she's the one who basically broke the news, the Aaron Brockovich of this whole thing, who broke the news about the affair and who has been leading the charge. And she's the one that testified earlier this week before the Georgia Senate committee that's also investigating Ms. Willis. So she has filed a lawsuit. It's pending in Superior Court of Fulton County with a different judge, but it's about the district attorney's office concerted efforts, she would say, to stymie her lawful open records requests. And so under the law, you can file a lawsuit if they don't comply, and you can get money damages and all kinds of other things. She and her husband, John, are law partners. And so it's her law firm, basically, that is the plaintiff in the open records lawsuit, not the Trump team per se. It's literally the attorneys who represent a Trump co-defendant.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens next? We're still waiting on the judge to decide if he's going to rule either in favor entirely of Ashley Merchant's motion or perhaps partially in favor of it. He can do a couple of things, guys. He can He can remove Willis and everybody who works under her or lays under her. He can remove
Wait a
them.
minute.
Yeah.
He can remove them from the case, but he could leave the case pending. And we would call that like an orphan indictment, in which case the Georgia Prosecuting Attorneys Council, that's the state agency that sort of that would be designated to make a determination of whether or not they're going to appoint a different prosecutor in the state of Georgia. And then the question is, like, if they decide to do that, who are they going to give it to? Because nobody really wants this thing. It's a dumpster fire, and it's become, I think, so tainted by Willis's shenanigans and perhaps prosecutorial misconduct that in order to get it done right, if another prosecutor takes it over, they're going to have to start all over from the beginning. And nobody wants this. They've got their own fish to fry. They've got their own caseload in their own jurisdictions to deal with. They don't want to bring this mammoth case into the fold of everything else that they have doing, because look, Willis is the one that went to the county and begged for millions of dollars for the COVID backlog and then turned around and used it on this prosecution instead. So it's going to be very difficult, I think, if not impossible, for her to, or for them to find somebody to take this case. So if she gets disqualified, whether the judge dismisses the indictment or not, it's over. And Ashley Merchant actually has told me recently, and this was surprising to me, if they get disqualified, Willis can't appeal. She cannot appeal from her disqualification. Okay.
Well, speaking of that, Phil, let me ask you an avant-garde question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you an avant-garde. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. What happens to the poor sons of bitches who pled out already?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
The regret, I tell you, there's only a handful of them, but if the whole indictment, guys, is so just tainted from the very beginning, I think that there is a very good argument to be made that their pleas would be technically invalid, or they could file a motion with the court seeking to withdraw their plea, and I think it should be granted. A lot of times, pleas, there's a time when when it becomes too late to ask to withdraw your plea. Sometimes a card laid is a card played, and you just got to move on. But if the indictment itself is so structurally unsound due to the conflicts of interest and all the other shenanigans that have been going on, then I think that the time limits probably go out the window, and it would be the prudent thing to do to withdraw the plea.
Should they do it now?
Sources tell me that there's already some that are having some buyer's remorse on these plea deals, and
of
in the
course.
rear view mirror, they're not looking so hot anymore.
Isn't Jenna Ellis one of them? Who?
Yeah, I wonder should they be doing it now?
Yeah.
Just while the noise is so, she's in battle. I would think it's like great time to do it. Like, oh no, never mind. Oh no, never mind. Oh no, no. So the case is falling apart at the same time her life is falling apart. Question for you. Do you think that the judge may come in with the decision more quickly now because he already has competition for the upcoming election? I was thinking he would stall so that way he would affect and could hopefully run unopposed, then make the decision, but he won't run unopposed. So what's the point?
Yeah. So, right. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. And for the last day or so, since we've learned about the judge's opponent, I've been back and forth on it. Before we learned about the opponent, I was pretty solidly of the opinion that he's going to grant the defense motion, at least insofar as removing them. I was comfortable and confident in that. Now I'm not so sure, but in the last, basically since today, since I woke up and I started thinking about it, I might have pulled myself back. The idea being that, look, as Eric, you just said, this opponent is in the race regardless. And so no matter what,
Phil, tell us about the opponent. Tell us about the opponent.
Well, let me finish this thought real quick. No matter what the judge does, the opponent is in the race. And so the judge might very well just say, look, I'm going to rule with my conscience, and I'm going to go ahead and disqualify her, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may, because he's going to have to answer to the voters one way or another. And he's going to piss off a lot of people no matter which way he goes. Mark asked about the opponent. So Georgia's judicial races are nonpartisan. In other words, there's a nonpartisan primary. Willis, now she has to, go in the Democrat primary, but the judges all go in what's called a nonpartisan primary. We know that McAfee is a Republican. He was appointed by a Republican governor, Federalist Society, and all these Republican bona fides. So he's clearly a Republican. Well, the challenger is a guy that used to be with like the Rainbow Push Coalition. I'm not kidding. Literally.
God!
Wow.
So he's a Trump hater. There's social media, and I can share it with you guys when I can get to it. But he's made some social media posts. I think I posted some of them on X, so you can take a look at my X feed and find those. But he has posted things on Facebook and elsewhere that memes about Trump, and you can just see the hatred for Donald Trump just oozing from every pore and ounce of his being. So he's clearly a Trump hater, and he has said that McAfee is making a mockery of Atlanta by allowing this to go on in his courtroom. So clearly this Willis fiasco is the motivator for him running. So he's really far left, but he's technically in the nonpartisan primary along with Judge McAfee.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay. Well, that's what I was wondering about. So then it would make sense in all accounts for him to make the decision as soon as he's ready, because the more distance he has between now and the election, if it affects him, the better. But I don't think I'd want to be in that judge's position. I don't know.
Well, what is it? When is the decision? Next week, Phil? Does anybody?
I think it was he said it was going to be within 2 weeks, and I think that was on like a Monday or Tuesday. So I'm thinking that it might even be sooner than that. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see something from him next week. But he said that it was going to take him around 2 weeks, and that was going to be his goal. He's not bound to that. He can take longer, or he can do it sooner. I think that as a practical matter, he probably was going to wait until at least through this week, so he could see, if he was going to be unopposed. That would certainly make it a lot easier and more comfortable for him to toss Willis from the case. But regardless of what he rules, she's already, I think, turned her political machine against him. She's got the mailers, she's got the voter list, she's got the phone number list, she's got all the things in her political campaign apparatus don't forget her favorite word, cash. Yeah, plenty of cash to give him too, maybe. So I think she's going to basically sick her wolves on the judge by way of supporting the judge's opponent. Now, here's the thing: the irony of this, because of this opponent's public statements about Donald Trump, should he win, there's no way in hell he's going to get this case. He would have to be recused because of the bias that he's already expressed against a defendant in the case.
Well, you could say the same thing about Letitia James up in New York. I mean, she ran as a Trump killer and was not recused by anyone up there.
Well, that's not going to happen here. He would have to either recuse himself, or the defendants would file a motion to have him recused. It would be assigned to another judge. And look, there's been another judge in Fulton County that's already recused Fani Willis once because of political bias. She hosted or participated in a fundraiser for the opponent in 2020 of the current Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Burt Jones, who was going to be one of the defendants in this case. And the judge booted her off, said you can't do anything about Burt Jones because you got a conflict of interest. So now Burt Jones, that case was referred to the state agency I mentioned, the prosecuting attorney.
Burt Jones is a Democrat,
they haven't done anything.
Phil, or is Burt Jones a Democrat?
No, he's a Republican. He's the current lieutenant governor of Georgia. But back when he was running for the job of lieutenant governor, she supported and campaigned for and fundraised for his opponent, and that got her booted from everything related to Burt Jones.
Gotcha.
Was that the clip that I've shared a few times? It's another judge when he was talking about, I can't say this discrepancy, but it looks, and he's like really super expressive. Like,
that sounds right.
Okay, that's a
fantastic with our new series of Fani Willis trading cards, we'll be able to keep up with this more intelligently, Phil. I don't know what the hell's going on down there, but we need trading cards to know all the different players.
And honestly, I need to figure out how to use the whiteboard or the whiteboard feature with my camera that I've got here, because I need to be able to draw all this out, because you really need some kind of a flow chart to understand the twists and turns. It's really, really crazy. And if you don't keep up with it, you'll get lost.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's it is insane. So, okay. Do we have anything more that we want to cover on that? Any more thoughts on that, on Fani, the story that keeps on giving? Mark.
No, I'm good. I don't know anything. I'm just listening to Phil. I don't know anything else about it.
Well, there's, I don't know, last week when we talked about it, I don't know if this had broken yet, but the chief assistant district attorney in Cobb County, which neighbors Fulton County, it's actually really close to where I'm sitting, but I'm in Fulton right now. But the chief assistant district attorney at the prosecutor's office in Cobb County has apparently offered to testify for the defendants in this case because she says that she watched the testimony in the hearings and she says that a lot of it's not true. She says that she has direct personal knowledge that back in September of last year, the district attorney Willis herself called Terrence Bradley, who was the person who was Nathan Wade's former law partner and lawyer for a time in the divorce case, said that Bradley was sitting in her office. Willis called him. She knew it was Willis. She recognized the voice, I guess. And Willis told Bradley that, hey, they're on to us. They're digging around about money. And by that, she's talking about the efforts of Ashley Merchant to find out how much money she was spending on these special prosecutors. Mm-hmm. And Willis tells the witness, you don't need to talk to them. Basically, keep your mouth shut. So now we've got evidence directly from another prosecutor in the same state in the county next door, basically saying she's a witness, an eyewitness to Fani Willis tampering with a witness. So just when you think this case could not get more surreal, bam, something happens. So we could find out 10 minutes from now or tomorrow morning that some other bombshell is going to explode here. We just don't know, but it's just clearly off the rails. And it's the kind of thing that, unfortunately, it just, I regret that it makes Atlanta look so dumb, but it really does. And I want to tell everybody in the audience, this is not reflective of our legal system, not the one that I participate in anyway, but it is reflective of the reality of the Fulton County criminal justice system that's basically headed up by Fani Willis. It's very dysfunctional. There have problems with people dying in the jail left and right, and Fani Willis appears to not have any concern about that. She waits 4, 5, 6 years to bring cases where, rape victims have to go years and years and years without even the chance to see justice. And of course, the community is terrorized by violent crime, and she doesn't seem to be interested in going after any of that either.
Okay, well, last question. We'll wrap it up. This one is for the sound bites for everywhere because everybody's going to want to know. What is her risk now? There's more that's come out. Is she in trouble? Is she going to lose her license? Could she go to jail? Sum it up for us, please.
Yeah, maybe all of the above. So if she is found to have lied to the court, of course, the judge can take direct action. He could throw her in jail for contempt, but he could also refer it to the state bar. We know that there's already been bar complaints that have been filed. I'm sure there's probably several that have been filed by members of the public over this, but the judge could refer that to the state bar. If you lie to the court, under oath or not, that's a disbarable offense. But if you're under oath and you lie to the court, that's a crime. It's also a crime to violate your oath of office as an elected official. That's a felony. It'll get up to 5 years in prison. And it's also a felony to tamper with a witness, like the other prosecutor has said that she may have done. So if the attorney general sees fit to bring law enforcement involved, perhaps the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, then yeah, there could absolutely be a criminal investigation. It's not outside the realm of possibility. The state ethics board could get involved if they believe that there was any campaign finance issues. And we heard that testimony about taking the cash out of the campaign money, right? So we've got a lot of different entities looking at this. So depending on which entity we're talking about, the things that they can do are a little bit different, but she is in very, very real trouble, very real danger, I think, potentially of losing her license. Look, if she loses her law license, she can't be the DA anyway. So it's good we've got other people that have qualified to take her place in case she gets tossed for any reason.
Do you think it's going to happen? I just want to know, do you think it?
Yeah, what do you think?
What is it? I mean, depends on what the definition of it is.
Well, something. I mean, is she just going to go and be like, oh, that was a bad week and, or bad month and a half and go on and maybe not get reelected? Or is she in actual trouble? Is something going to happen?
I think she is in actual trouble. And I think, and look, a lot of times I'm a cynic and a pessimist when it comes to things related to law and courts and things of that nature. But in this case, I think one way or another, she's off the case.
Wow.
Whether it goes so far as to have somebody charge her with a crime, I don't know. I'm hearing birdies chirping in my ear, telling me that there are things that may be in the works in that regard, but it's certainly nothing that we can count on. At this point, the best I can say is we'll just have to wait and see. But one way or another, I do think that she's probably going to have to either leave this case or have it taken from her one way or the other.
Will she be allowed to have an episode of Star Trek like Stacey Abrams had?
Absolutely not.
Eric
no,
liked that one.
No way.
Eric liked that.
No, I'm a Trekkie myself. I
threw that out there for you. That's
if they do that, I'm going to have to quit watching. But no, I don't know. She could, I don't know, Real Housewives of Atlanta or something like that.
Okay, that's something.
While we're beating up
a book, a reality show, something like that.
Okay, all right.
While we're beating up on
maybe we can get her to
Atlanta-
come on your show.
Oh,
Would you
stop
like me
it.
to
That's a
reach out?
bridge too far, my friend.
Well,
That's a bridge too far.
Anyway, while we're beating up on Atlanta, this is a story that keeps on giving. It's not just Atlanta. We've covered it. It's in California. It's in New York. We talked about with you last week. Here we go again. Another update. Squatters taking over a Georgia man's home while he's caring for his sick wife, and now he can't evict them. What's going on? Is this continuing?
Yeah, it is. And this is something I think there's a new one since we did talk about it last week. And, the Republican who announced that she's running, her name's Courtney Kramer. She's running against Willis. One of the things that she says that's high on her list of priorities if she's elected DA is to enforce property rights. And it includes squatters, but it also personal property like, retail theft and organized retail theft. Fani Willis doesn't seem to give a rat's behind about the rights of homeowners who basically go on vacation and they come back and somebody's taken over their house and they're shooting pornos in it or something like that.
Military duty also, Phil.
Yeah. The legislature just passed a law that is going to allow law enforcement to pull them out of there. But, this is the kind of thing that the district attorney, instead of going on national news about the Trump indictment, she needs to be holding press conferences, letting the public know what she's going to do to protect the rights of homeowners so that when they do go out of town or when they go to the military service or anything else, they're not going to come back and see, pornos being filmed in their house. But that's what's going on. They're using these as party houses.
With the Grobert House sitting security service that I've now gone national with, this shouldn't be a problem in the future. We have 3 8-hour shifts. We're using a lot of college kids, some people blind with service dogs. You can sign up through Hunley through the channel after the show.
Yep. Or you can also go to Phil's YouTube channel and he'll be giving updates and reports on the homeless situation in Georgia too, along with Fani Willis. But I want to compliment the state just under you. They seem to be dealing with things in a different way. Looks like DeSantis is set to ban homeless from sleeping on public property.
Wow, that's a bold move. That's interesting.
Imagine a clean.
Aren't these laws on the books, Phil? Aren't these laws on the books everywhere about people sleeping on public property or outdoors, camping, tents, all of that stuff exists, right? Trespassing.
Yeah, it's trespass. There's lots of laws that could be used if there was the will to do it. I'm one of the reasons for example, we keep talking about Fulton County courts. I'm not picking on them, but I am picking on them because every time I go there, like you have to step through puddles of pee and over homeless people just to get in the door, to the courthouse. It's absolutely out of control. And I would love to see our legislature perhaps take up some measures that would give law enforcement some tools to literally clean up the streets. That would be fantastic.
Okie doke.
It's kind of the opposite where you are. So, all right, we're going to drift back up to New York. Now, Phil, you were a cop at one point, or you've been dealt with law enforcement for a while, so I figure you might be interested in this story too. Right. This guy is all behind prison reform. He was on Joe Rogan, and we shouldn't judge too quickly, but occasionally somebody might have a head in the freezer. There could be reasons for that, right?
A killer in a wig accused of murdering and chopping up his body cozies up to Alvin Bragg.
We don't mess around in New York, Phil. We don't. This stuff with Fani Willis doesn't even amuse us. We've got a guy whose father and grandfather had the same name as him and were both lifetime criminals. This guy here, the killer, chopped off the head of one of his enemies in a building, rolled in a blue tote to put the head in. He had been appearing with Joe Rogan. He had been reformed by prison. He had worked with his father, who was a lifetime felon. His father was a deaf drug dealer. So when he was a kid, he used to roll out with his dad to sell drugs, to do the sign language. So the people who were buying the drugs from his dad would be comfortable in buying drugs from a deaf drug dealer. He then graduated to armed robbery, strong arm robbery. He did 20 years upstate New York, got out, was reformed, and immediately hooked up with the DA's office in Queens, with the public defenders. And then Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, took him under his wing, as did Joe Rogan, claiming to be reformed, and chopped the guy's head off this week in a building up in.
Well, I mean, how do you define? Is that how we define reform these days? And it makes you wonder when people get, close to powerful elected people. Like, I mean, does nobody really? I mean, I guess a background check would have revealed the past.
Oh, no, they knew who he was. They embraced him.
Right, but what about?
They embraced him.
Society.
What about like a current like a psychiatric evaluation or something to figure out, are they in fact reformed?
Well, hold on. Let's meet him, Mark.
Here's Joe Rogan with the guy on there.
Because I was the type of person who would say, "You doing that for what reason? Nah, you can't do that. The rule says that you can't do this. You can't do this. This is what the rules say." And
Eric and I can't get on Joe Rogan, but this guy can. I'm offended. I'm offended that the head chopper got on Joe Rogan before I did.
It was to their advantage to get me out of the way. So when I decided to take a step back, they were like, "Yes," and it was to my advantage as well. And this was in 2005.
So there was no resistance.
None.
Yeah, Joe the liberal just got duped.
A lot of the
oh yeah, he did.
Liberal Joe just got duped, bro.
In my immense experience with head chopper offers, I'm comfortable in saying that anybody who chops off a head has a psychiatric disorder, and so it makes you wonder. I mean, how did they miss this? I mean, is it?
Well, it's a rule of thumb. I'm a drug counselor and former drug addict. It's a rule of thumb on this channel. Any head chopping or any swords is related only to crystal meth. And I will predict to you that this gentleman was involved in crystal meth abuse. That's where head chopping comes from.
Well, if I grew up in South Georgia. I know that you can't tell from my accent, but
I can't.
But I've got a headline. If I can just share it with you. This is breaking today on the Metro Atlanta News. 2 Georgia men indicted for blowing up house, conspiracy to feed child to python, and scalp mom.
Okay.
And it goes on to say two men from South Georgia were indicted Thursday for blowing up a woman's house, trying to scalp her and trying to feed her daughter to a python.
Let me translate that for you. The blowing up of the house was a meth lab. The scalping was, again, related to meth. And it's all about this with chopping of heads. They want the head to shut up and stop talking. So what they do is they cut the head off. And I know that sounds crazy, but in the meth psychosis, that's where this goes. That's why you see so many incidents with meth addicts involving of chopping of heads, and also swords. Samurai swords are involved quite a bit. And I suggest that the scalping might fall under that umbrella.
Well, the python feeding is a new one. I've never seen that before.
Which one?
Feeding a baby to a python.
Oh, the python feeding. That goes way back to India. That's an old.
That's just caring for the snake.
Yeah, that's just caring for the snake. The snake had to eat.
It's got to eat.
Eat.
They ran out of rats.
Okay, I pulled another story earlier that you haven't seen this one, Mark, but it's interesting because everybody loves to go to Wikipedia. Oh, I went I went to Wikipedia. Wikipedia says so. Here's what happened. Sean Stone, an action movie producer, dies at 31. Apparently, he had colon cancer. It's a pretty tragic thing. So Wikipedia's entry for Sean Stone the son of Oliver Stone.
Oh, I knew they were going to do that.
Has him dead.
I'm going to throw up. That's terrible. Hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on.
Anyway, I definitely want to share this because this is typical Wikipedia. They have it correct now, but you got to watch out and not quote Wikipedia. It's famous for doing this. And then you have activists who are going to spread their own particular message on it. And this is a perfect example. And I just wanted to bring it up today because.
Well, what I want to know, and you might know better than me, what controls, if any, are in place, Eric, with on the Wikipedia side of the house that, prevents people from just going in and changing things and saying things that are true or that defame people or just basically, vandalizing somebody's Wikipedia page. What controls, if any, do they have? And if they don't have any, shouldn't they be liable? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but it is an insane situation. But Phil, I know we're planning for 30 minutes. We're going to head on now to our next story.
Wait, what happened to Sean Stone? Is he dead or alive?
One's dead, one's alive.
It's funny because they put up
Oliver
Sean
as a
Stone.
son.
I knew that was going to happen, but I've never heard of this guy as a producer, so I thought that would happen. Anyway, go on.
All right. Well, look, last week you guys paid my appearance fee, which was having Mark follow me on X, which he did. Okay. So I'm going to have to up the ante this week. My appearance fee is going up. It has to. I need a t-shirt.
We got a quick. Oh shoot, we have a. You need a t-shirt. Okay. Yeah. I'll figure something. I'll get you something. Phil, did Willis put Padillo up to run versus McAfee? We'll get the super chat.
If I were a betting man, I'd bet my last dollar and yours too. Yes. She has a hand in it.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's really no coincidences here. It's just too much for it to be a coincidence. I do think, she probably has a hand in that.
Okay. And I'm almost there. What evidence implications of Willis and Letitia James having contact?
Well, that's Letitia James, her twin sister. That's not Letitia. Letitia James, her Siamese twin. She was separated at birth, who also is nefarious. But go on, Eric. I'm sorry, I digress.
Oh no. But there we go. I think this is part of the overall implications. I'm sure. As you say,
you've got the guy who's been implanted down there, the embedded guy down in Atlanta. Right, Phil, who's out of the White House.
DeSantis, not Ron, but Jeff.
DeSantis, Ron DeSantis is evil.
Breitbart's been digging up dirt on that. But it looks like he's a operative of the DNC. In fact, Breitbart has updated their story since we last spoke. They found another connection. Willis lets this guy, she pays him a lot of money, probably $200,000 a year, as like the deputy chief muckety muck assistant, whatever. And he's a lawyer, but he doesn't go to court. He doesn't prosecute cases or anything like that. He's her comms guy, but she lets him, in addition to that, she lets him have his outside consulting business.
Wow.
It's political consulting, and his partner, Breitbart reports, a client of the partner of Jeff DeSantis, who works for Fani Willis. See, I need my whiteboard here. The Biden campaign is his client.
Right.
So they basically can draw a line directly to the Biden campaign.
Wow. One final question I have, and this is a little bit off the beaten path. When you were drinking and partying with Ted Turner, how did that go?
I'm going to have to plead the fifth on this. Ted Turner used to be, an icon around Atlanta and all this, but I guess later on he just kind of lost it a little bit, I think.
Well, he married Jane Fonda. He was honeypotted.
Hanoi Jane. Yeah.
What do you expect? But well, folks, thank you, Phil. By the way, everybody, check it out. If you click his name in the description here on YouTube,
what happens?
It will take you to Phil's channel.
And then
Phil has a channel. He's starting it up. He's going to have updates on that YouTube channel.
Okay.
He will have them. I'm going to force him to have some sort of updates, maybe an interview with Ashley Merchant, that type of thing. You guys might want to check it out. Let's get him to at least 1,000 subscribers, which will kind of force his hand a little bit.
What?
And he'll have to start bringing up some more content. And Phil, thank you so much, dude.
Yep. Soon as we got spring break with the kids next week, but that's top of my list when we get back.
Right on. Right on.
Fabulous.
Thanks, Phil.
Well, by
Thank
then,
you.
hopefully
Eric,
you're
send
there.
them a t-shirt or some swag or something.
Will do. Will
Happy
do.
to be.
All right.
Thanks so much, man. All right. So we probably need to get into the story of the week because something has happened since
What?
Tuesday.
What?
Yeah. What was our last show about?
I don't know. I don't remember already. I forget. No, I'm on to the next one already. I don't remember. What did we do? Lizzie
right.
Borden or something? Or
No, we covered Rust. We finally.
Rust.
went
No,
back.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go on.
So I mean, sorry, I don't want to bury the lead, but this is kind of our other big
Oh,
story of the
that's
week.
terrible. That's terrible.
It
She's so
is.
cute. Look at her. She looks a lot cuter.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was cleaned up very well for the trial and everything else, but I did want to, talk about it. This is the other big story of the week.
Adult detention facility. Wow.
Yeah, well, she was remanded from court, found guilty. She was remanded. We have not had the sentencing, but she is in prison until sentence or in jail until sentencing, which is going to be in April. So I don't know what is going to happen from there. Bowles asked for her to, not be or to, wait until sentencing. The judge said somebody died and remanded her.
Oh, plenty of
immediately.
people died in BLM, but nobody went to jail for that.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the rest of the trial, but I didn't know if you had any final thoughts on that for now. I mean,
Well, my final take is that it took 2.5 years to set up this deep state operation. I think Baldwin will be acquitted in the span of a week. I think he is. It's going to be a completely different tone with Alec Baldwin in July. I believe that she was a sacrificial lamb, this girl. I think it took 2.5 years, the destruction of the weapon by the FBI, bringing in a JFK lone nut gun expert who had demonstrated that Lee Harvey Oswald had acted alone. I think the hand of the deep state took 2.5 years to pull this off. The removal of the MAGA prosecutor was kind of the first move that we saw. And then I've seen some other chicanery. Again, this goes back to the killing or the murder of a woman who was herself involved in deep state activities for another country, that being the UK, where she did sex slaves of the Soviet Union and wrote for the Daily Mail against Putin. May or may not have been involved in documentaries that were coming up on pedophilia in Hollywood. That's always been disputed. There's a lot around this case in general since Eric and I started covering it that is not completely explained by the simple conviction of this woman to have the jury come back in 5 minutes, smiling and laughing. This thing stinks, to be honest with you, and I think it's going to acquit Alec Baldwin, and I think he'll go on the campaign trail for Biden. I think that he pulled a lot of his chips to get this done. I think it took 2.5 years for a reason. And when you have the FBI destroying the murder weapon, when you start bringing in JFK people into this thing, one thing that I believe it, to me personally, it signaled for the first time, and that began with the removal of the MAGA prosecutor, the hand of the deep state got involved in this thing.
Could be. I mean,
yeah, this is not to negate. This is not to negate her. I'm just saying, and the bigger picture, my takeaway is that for some reason, and I think Baldwin called in his chips on this, and I believe he will be acquitted.
Well, it truly helps Baldwin, obviously, because he can go to trial and say,
yeah, of course,
you already got the people.
But I don't think it's just random events. I like many other things that we've seen in our society in the past number of years, especially on this channel, to all of a sudden think that this one particular case is above board and on the level, we'd have to be delusional. So that it's kind of a broad takeaway, but I don't want to get into the weeds on her case. But there were people on Court TV who were commentators on there who were quite shocked by the results of this case. I personally agree with them, but I think, like you said, I think it helps Baldwin to simply say, "Look, you got your killer there. What are you bothering me for?"
Yeah, you just want me because I'm a big name.
Yeah. So
it
I think
definitely helps the narrative.
we both agree on that, and I believe that he will be acquitted.
All right. So let me go through some super chats to catch up on the
ahead.
money. And you know what? We have not been demonetized yet. I'm afraid to say it out loud.
Soaking in the love.
You know,
Soaking in the love.
If I bitch about it when we are, I need to acknowledge, at least for the time that we are.
I want to acknowledge some people when you're done. So go ahead.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Dick Dickerson gave 10 America's Untold Stories membership, which is like $50. We really do appreciate it. And followed up with this question, and it's a good one. What helps us more, giving memberships every Friday or just giving super chats? Whatever's best. Both are good. I'd say maybe memberships are better because if people get it, maybe they'll want to give a member or renew it themselves. But it works out, financially pretty close to the same. Maybe we'll get a little more if they choose to renew the membership.
Which would lead into where I'm going. Which would lead into where I'm going with this, because Eric and I are still available for Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. That's listed by Eric down below.
Yes.
Besides this, okay, yeah.
And of course, locals. I mean, locals is where we really like it. We do the after show, and it's just locals. I feel like you actually getting more out of it than just supporting us. You're getting a community. You're getting to hang out, reading people from some like-minded, super cool people, which I really appreciate. And thank you, Paul, for being a new member. Isle of Boston. Something seems off about Biden saying you and I are going to have a come to Jesus meeting to a Jew. BB, is that offensive?
Well, I
it's
think
Biden.
It's colloquial.
Yeah, it's Biden.
Colloquial come to Jesus. I mean,
man.
It's insulting that he believes that he can treat an independently elected democratic leader of another country like a super bitch. That's offensive, Jew or not Jew, Israel or not Israel. I mean, he did the same exact thing with Ukraine. On video, the same exact thing with the prosecutor in his son's case. You know what? The most astounding, well, there are many astounding things in the State of the Union, but he's tired of people not paying their taxes, and here is his goddamn son under indictment for not paying his taxes. I mean, the irony is breathtaking.
Oh, he's a thug. I mean, he's a thug.
This is a thug, people. I mean, Jesus.
And I mean, it is the Biden crime family.
He's tired of people not paying their fair share. How about looking at your own family?
He wants to wet his beak, Mark.
He wants to wet his. I mean, his son is under indictment for taxes, for Christ's sakes.
Wow. Dan Smith said the boys never fail to deliver. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't know if this news story kind of fell between the cracks about Victoria Nuland resigning. To me, it indicated, and to many other experts, it indicated the end of the Ukraine war. This is a force out of the top neocon designer of the Ukraine war. She was forced to resign. It is a huge story not being covered by the mainstream media. It is an admission of the collapse and end. And this is the end game. What's going on right now is the end game of the Ukraine war.
There she is.
There she is on the right.
And the left. Look at this progress. This just shows you what an evil soul is like consuming. That is a relatively attractive person on the left, and that's her on the right. This is her life. So, can you get a better example?
She's like, you know what it is? She's like the female Dick Cheney lookalike doppelganger. Well, you got Liz Cheney, so I don't need a doppelganger of her father, but if Dick Cheney married her, you might have more Liz Cheneys.
Yeah, I mean, look at that, dude.
What an evil woman. She's caused the death of hundreds of thousands of people. You want to talk about war criminals? This is the face of a war criminal right here. It doesn't matter that she operates out of Washington, D.C. or Berlin in 1942. I mean, this is or Tokyo in 1943. This is a face of a war criminal, my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, people are saying aging's not easy on people. Look, this is a very sour person that's just consumed. People get wrinkles, people, get heavier, obviously, but not like, I mean, she just looks evil. I mean, she really looks evil. I'm sorry.
You're gonna have some women to answer to, Hunley, but you've dug your own hole here.
Well, this is Mark. He fed it to me, so
I didn't have anything to do with it. Get out of here.
Yes,
I did not. I don't care how she looks.
You not only sat
She's
there.
evil. I drew the picture.
Yeah. Just like this other story that you shared with me, you're going to pick on the trans activist now.
They've already fired her, him or whatever it is. I mean, you know what's amazing? That like here's Doritos, right? They hire this insane transgender person with an insane Twitter feed, with insane pedophilia stuff, and it takes the internet 5 seconds to what Doritos could have done in 5 minutes in their own boardroom, Eric. Right?
Yeah, just read their own Twitter feed. This is
I mean, what is the deal with these corporations? I don't understand. Don't they vet these people?
I don't know. I mean, it's like, why don't you just, you know what they should do? Hire libs of TikTok.
I'll do it. I'll do it for free. Just hire me. Come here. I'll do it.
Yeah, hold on. It's like, let me see the Twitter feed. Okay,
Scroll. Here you go. Here's an email. Right.
Wait, what? Yeah, but it's not even email. This is public. Twitter is public.
Yes. No, I know. It's crazy.
Oh, my God.
So, of course, he was fired immediately upon the revelations by 9 million people on Twitter. It's breathtaking. I mean, it couldn't even get to the Bud Light level. Now, I mean, Doritos did it in less a tenth of the time as Bud Light.
By the way, well, at least give it. Well, I don't know. I was going to give them some credit for at least acting on it, but they really should vet ahead of time, for God's sake. Oh my God!
You know what they need? They need an unwoke person, not for policy, but to counter the woke person in HR. So in other words, the unwoke executive will then take the orders or directives from the woke and vet those orders, if you follow what I'm saying. Not issue policy directives. The unwoke executive will check the crazy crap of the woke executive.
Yeah, or even just find somebody in middle America, just a small town.
Right, you can run it by some normal person in case.
Yeah, just walk up to him and say, "What do you think? Should we do this?" What? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I mean, it
could be that they're in a major city and they did that with 5,000 people and they got 5,000 agreements.
Well, if it's the wrong city, like where you are.
Yeah, here you could go around all day and not get
notice
anybody.
I said middle America. I meant flyover country. Go to flyover country where people are smart, where they make sense.
Well, maybe they sell more Doritos in certain cities. I don't know what the market is for Doritos these days. It's very cheesy Doritos. Seems to almost have too much cheese.
I don't know, but okay.
Do you eat Doritos or no? You don't.
No, I can't stand them. But
okay, all right.
Well, and it's not that I'm anti-chip. I don't like the.
Does it seem very cheesy to you? Like it's
it's fake. It's fake.
It's fake cheese.
I like real cheese. You know, I don't like Velveeta and that nacho cheese.
Have you ever had Velveeta and Spam together in the same dish?
That would be like George Carlin's, when you sneeze and fart at the same time, I'd lose all control.
Well, the Philippines, it just worships Spam, and the Philippines has a huge influence on the West Coast.
Hawaii,
the whole West Coast, because of the war, worships even to this day Spam. Like when you go to Hawaii or the Philippines or places even on the West Coast.
But some of that is just shipping, because it was a food that was shelf stable that they could have for a long time. It's not like it's so expensive to ship cattle there or other food.
Well, I don't see Spam in French restaurants. I'm saying it's a West Coast theater, Western theater of the World War II result. The Philippines, it's on 800 different menu items. There's Spam with everything. Right. They've made a religion out of this.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But same thing at Hawaii, because all the food would come on a ship. It takes forever to get there. It'd go bad, and unless you freeze it, and then it's expensive. So Spam, and they may figure out, okay, well, how do you make it edible? Or
I agree. I'm just saying, when the war ended 75 years ago, you figure they would move on, but they've got Spam left over in bunkers apparently.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's wed into the culture. It's kind of like I forgot the kind of coffee. It's
chock full
chicory.
Of nuts? Chicory. Oh, chicory.
You ever heard of chicory coffee?
In the South, in the Confederate States, yeah.
Right. Well, that was a result of the Civil War.
Judah P. Benjamin was the treasurer of the Confederacy, a known Hebrew.
Okay, well, they couldn't get normal coffee because of all the problems. They came up with a chicory coffee. It wed into the culture. So to this day, there are people who drink chicory coffee.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just
I didn't know
something
that.
they acquired a taste for it.
Okay. I acquired a taste for egg cream, so I learned how to make egg creams.
I imagine you did. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to
What do you got? What else you
China.
got here?
Well, okay, you sent me this talking about Discovery
Oh,
Channel.
this one's great. This one's great. Yeah, I saw that this morning. What this article does, and I wish people can download this article on Breitbart because it goes into detail of how the nuts and bolts of how China gets to put on documentaries on now Warner Brothers owns the Discovery Channel, and Warner Brothers was called before the bright lights of Congress, and they said, look, we just bought the goddamn channel, and they wrote a letter to Congress apologizing. This was stuff that was omitted from this Chinese documentary or Warner Brothers Discovery Channel documentary that was made secretly in a partnership with the Chinese Communist government about the Uyghurs and how there was no genocide of the Uyghurs and all of these different policy things that were omitted in the documentary. People on the right, Congress people on the right, called them to testify under the bright lights of Congress. And like I said, it had an immediate effect. Warner Brothers issued an apology, said we've severed ties with this production company in China. And this article goes into detail of how this system works, how the Chinese influences our documentaries, our TV, and our movies. And I thought it was important for the audience.
It ties into this other thing you sent earlier this week, right? About
that's right. This is a
takeover.
Right. Yeah. This is a movie that is airing. I began to air the other day. It's on Epic Times. You can get it if you subscribe. I think you can get it for free. There's a guy there I know who was involved in this Chinese operation. He had done Looper, a producer who wrote a book about it. I want to see if we can get him on the channel. I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years, but I DM'd him the other day about coming on. He had produced Looper. And what he told me was when they were doing Looper, which is about time travel, the Communist Chinese Party is opposed to themes in movies about time travel. This is stuff that you would never think about in a million years, and neither did he. And the time travel theme that the Chinese talk about, there's a scene in there with Jeff Daniels, who plays a bad guy, and the protagonist of the film, what's his name? I forget the guy. Not Bruce Willis, the other guy who was a young kid, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. There's a scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt where he says, I want to go to Paris in the future. It's about time travel back and forth, Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But he says, I want to go to Paris of the future. And Jeff Daniels says, no, you don't. You want to go to China. And he goes, no, I really want to go to Paris. And Jeff Daniels goes, you don't. You want to go to China. Now, that was put in by the Chinese Communist Party into a very big American movie because they do want to control, as Chris explained to me, Chris Fenton, as the producer, he said that they want to control not only the imagery of the past, but the imagery of the future in film, Eric. And I never would have thought about this in a million years, but they put that dialogue in there for the Communist Chinese Party out of the mouth of Jeff Daniels. And they were opposed to showing a futuristic China because they want to control the imagery of a futuristic China or the past of China. Yet they are salivating like cocaine addicts, Hollywood producers, over the billion-plus market of potential film goers in China, which is what started this whole thing.
Was it Shane Black that you have a story about in China?
Yeah, I think we talked about that. Shane Black did Iron Man 3, wrote and directed it, and they rewrote the entire third act, reshot it in China, created their own Iron Man, not with Robert Downey Jr., with another Chinese Iron Man in an exact similar Iron Man suit. Shane was well aware of it. The DGA has signed off on all of this. None of this is illegal. The DGA that wanted the money, that hates America's guts, signed off on all of these things that China does to our movies. And I was talking to someone from Variety a couple of years ago about this issue, and she said to me, she didn't believe it. And I said, look at 1942 in Hollywood regarding the Nazis. They did the same thing with the Germans, with the Third Reich, with film back then. They wanted to stay in the second largest market in the world, which was German, and they wanted to stay there. So they edited, censored, cut Jewish people out of the credits, all of it at the bidding of the German government and the film industry, which the head of the film industry at the time was Joseph Goebbels. They did this for money, to stay in that market, the same reason they're doing it today with China. And these people hate the people who are in the DGA are progressive leftists. These are not David Mamet types. These are people on the far left. They could care less what the Chinese do with our films. They are in it for the money.
And Red Dawn too, right?
Red Dawn, long story on the sequel to Red Dawn, not the original, the sequel to Red Dawn, where they had to eliminate all the different references to China and eventually had to reshoot the movie using North Koreans as the enemy of attacking the United States as opposed to China. But this is more subtle now. What Breitbart pointed out today in this article, the March 8th article by Francis Martel, is a lot more subtle, involving TV, documentaries, and political stuff within China. And that's why I called out, Vice News, which was a CIA front. National Geographic used to be a CIA front. Nat Geo, the channel, still is, from what I understand. And the Discovery Channel, which was purchased by Warner Brothers 2 years ago. Warner Brothers is saying we're going to clean up our act because they were caught. We'll see what happens.
So while we're on China, it's funny, 2 unanimous decisions or votes within the past 7 days. We had Supreme Court. Well, let's talk about the first one. Supreme Court 7-0. Finally, voted unanimously. Trump stays on all the damn ballots.
Well, no, 9-0.
9-0. 9-0. Sorry, I don't know what I said. Anyway,
you said 7.
Okay, sorry. 9-0.
Yeah.
Unanimous. And of course, have you seen everybody squealing? Well, was it really 9? There was people writing decisions. No, it's really a 5-4. No, it's really part. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't even.
They can't.
It's in your face.
Dude, no, but they
so
cannot
hard.
admit a loss. They keep in mind, I've said this many times before. The people on the left are not involved in organized sports, not involved in the church, and for the most part, not involved in the military. That's the troika where you learn how to fair play. You learn how to lose with dignity. That troika is something, in the most part, 80 to 90% of them have never been involved in their lives. And when you see their equals on the right, you will see a black man from the South who's in the church, who's conservative, who also played sports, a perfectly wonderful human being. But when you get into that troika on the other side, where they've never been involved in the church, never been involved in the military, have no belief in a higher power or God, and they have no background in playing organized sports, Katie, bar the door, because you're looking at a savage animal.
Totally agree. And then now this one just literally came in today or yesterday. Sorry. House committee unanimously advances a bill that can make TikTok unavailable. They voted 50-0, and it's rare that you see that kind of vote in Congress. And it is essentially saying that TikTok cannot exist under its current owner for, I think, more than 90 days now. No, 180. No, they have 180 days that they have to sell off TikTok itself to another owner, that it will be banned otherwise.
Well, they might find a puppet cutout, to do
right.
it
So it's
them.
kind of
it's kind of a weak sauce. I mean, the TikTok is so prevalent that it's banned in China by their own. And all you have to do is look at what China bans, and then we could just follow them and do what they do, and then we'll realize that this is what has to go.
But while we're working on banning Apple now, and it's not just Apple, it's actually the organization that deems emojis or Unicode and things like that, has banned the family emoji.
Oh my God, that was satanic. Look at that family emoji. It's banned.
Yeah.
What do they just have individual emojis now?
What they did, because I don't want to misrepresent it, is they now have it to where it's got to be kind of like a nebulous profile emoji, because the theory is that the family could have one black, one white, one this, one that, and if you have every combination, it would go till the end of time. So they have a new emoji essentially that's saying, here's these stick figures or silhouettes, and that's the family.
My favorite sign in California is the family crossing the road, the illegal alien family down mostly around San Diego, as you're well aware. They probably have it in Tucson also. It's a road sign designed with a family holding hands, four of them, running across the highway, and it's kind of like a deer crossing sign. For
I was thinking about the leaping deer. I always call
it. No, it's done by the same company. They boss, we just got an order. What is it? Leaping deer, bear, rough grouse? No, it's a family of illegal aliens. All right, let's get on it, Bob.
Oh my God! Yeah,
they probably think that's where you cross the border. They probably think, hey, look, they put a sign for us.
Yeah, never mind. How about just having stable software and just improving things? And let's not worry about the emoji moment. You know what? We'll cheer up. Let's go through some super chats here.
Okay, there's an emoji right there.
Yeah, there you go. Happy one too. I like that. Any scoop on McDonald's sister-in-law's mysterious?
Well, I'll just tell you this.
I'm
looking into it, and I haven't finished my investigation yet. But I will say that she was pulled out of a pond right an inch away from the LBJ ranch. So no, you can't make this up, Emily. She was pulled out of a lake dead at the LBJ ranch in Johnson City. So take it from me.
How long before he retired?
LBJ or McDonald?
No, McDonald.
He was close. He was close.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one caused the other. It could just be a correlation. But
I just found it fitting that it was the LBJ Ranch. What a tribute! What a tribute to the Senate as an institution and Senate Majority Leader,
master of the Senate.
Well, you're master of the Senate. I mean,
it wouldn't be a message of any kind, Mark.
No, it could have been any state or any lake in the Union. It could have been anywhere in the country. But you had to come of all the different gin joints. You had to walk into mine, the LBJ Ranch. Whoa!
Oh my God!
I was saving that for a later investigation, but.
We still haven't addressed it. Trey Ellswick, Mark called it. Legalizing hard drugs has failed miserably.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I mean, and it's not over yet. I mean, this cat up in San Francisco, who is the city councilman who makes all these rulings, passes all these bills, he called for the legalization last year, which failed out of Sacramento. And it was for legalization of LSD, mushrooms, psilocybin, and mescaline. So they said, all right, this is a bridge too far. So what did he do? He rewrote the bill saying it's only for therapy and you have to go before a hallucinogenic board of directors. You can't make this up. You have to go before a hallucinogenic board of directors to approve you being hooked up with a hallucinogenic drug counselor who will then be your therapy guide to take these hallucinogens that will be legalized. And we'll see where that goes. I doubt Newsom's going to sign that one.
Boy. Pamela, happy Friday, guys. Thank you very much, Pamela. Trey Ellswick, you are both right. Giuliani cleaned up New York City in the 80s as U.S. attorney and then in the 90s as the mayor. Okay. I was thinking of the 90s, but you're right. The biggest irony of all is that he's falling under the RICO statute that he's famous for creating. And
he created it, for Christ's sakes. He invented it.
So
that's where it came from.
Wow. Nelson Joseph, walk by 42nd Street checkpoint, overreaction. Yeah,
it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't know. Jason was saying it might have some effect on crime. He's a big law and order guy. It's just completely insane. It looks like a psyop for the future. That's what it is. It's not about crime on the subway. It's about deployment and practicing the deployment and how it's going to work for some future event that they want to use, probably during the election week.
Yeah, I hear that. Ginny's getting inky with it. Regarding the squatters, is on the uptick or just reported more?
No.
Seems to me squatting is a means for socialists to attack private property.
Yeah, well, the bottom part is definitely correct. It's not being reported more. I mean, look, if you have a home that's been taken over and you went to Ralph's supermarket, believe me, they didn't underreport that. The people who have their homes taken over is screaming bloody murder. They just can't do anything about it. They have found yet another Achilles heel in the capitalist system. This is what they're doing, people. It's not them. It's not the squatters themselves. The squatters are not the guys who came up with this brilliant scheme. There are people who are just looking around And Obama was famous for this. He exploited every gentleman's agreement that the House and the Senate and the federal government had. He found that every single non-legal, traditional, if you want to use the words, agreement, he exploited every single one of those. And now they're going after stuff that's on the books, but is hard to enforce to take down capitalism. And this is one of them.
That figures. Basil Beshkov, Newland Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Well, she probably drank the blood of her young victims. That's how she's probably 300 years old and
It's
goes back to
adrenochrome or whatever.
Right, she probably goes back to the Civil War, for Christ's sakes. We don't even know it.
Maybe. Kamala Gate meeting Fani Gate soon. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Harris has.
They sound equally intelligent.
Harris has remained basically scandal-free, going back until you wanted to get back up into when she was with the mayor of San Francisco. But since then, she has basically kept her nose clean in terms of scandals, if that means anything. But so did Obama. So it doesn't mean they're not operating behind the scenes.
Yeah, they find people to take the fall. Dick Dickerson. Okay, you asked, and I just upgraded my local sub.
Wow.
Now you will bask in my memes and nonsense.
Whoa, go meme.
Whoa,
go.
Okay,
Whoa,
watch out. I'm watching out.
And this is, of course, Angie Dickerson's grandson, the great Angie Dickinson, who was a kind of an adjacent Rat Pack member in many ways.
Hot female.
Hunley summing it up there in one word.
Very hot. She is gorgeous.
Angie Dickerson.
Anyway, Ginny is going to ink you with it. Did you see that kids were calling their reps threatening self-harm if they ban TikTok?
So it's a mass suicide threat. I like that. Well, we almost made it through. Anyway, let me give a shout out to these people before we get kicked off the air, because these people are keeping us on the air with the JFK Book Fund, with Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. These are the people that are helping us when we get to fund it. And I just wanted to read their names if you give me a second, Eric, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Just a thank you to Brian Nelson, Heather Rose. Some of these we mentioned before. Philip Booth, Dustin Russell.
Dustin came in huge.
Kayla Smotherman, Kevin Judge, John Smith, Brian Nelson, Joseph Zwig, Julie Schallert, George Erickson, Christina Hill, I take that back. Six Semper Tyrannus, I don't know who he is, but big supporter. Boris Kachaluba, Shane Culkin, Wesley McElway, Daniel Shear, Lance Grandis, Judy Young, Bill Allen, Sharon Kosterman, Michael Cox, the great Kirk Morris, Michael Kitcher, Keith Blackston, Ronald Rollins, John McMenamin, Nancy J., Dewey Mays, Irma Richardson, Juliet Swoboda, David Wozniak, Brian Halcott, Charles Locke, Nicholas Ratniks, John Gordon, Dan Smith, Philip Susie, Bart Andier, and Jeffrey Water. Many of these people who will be in the meetup in Youngstown, Ohio to meet. Some of us, obviously, we know them already from the previous meetups. These are the real supporters, the real heavy-duty supporters of the channel who don't get any cred, but have used the apps that Eric has provided down below.
Well, and they do that because it there's no overhead or very little overhead.
Yeah.
YouTube takes 30%.
Yeah.
Also, if you donate through your phone, like an iPhone or whatever, that's 30% that goes to Apple. In the case of Apple, then YouTube takes their 30%. So let's say a $10 donation, it's just under $5 that actually gets to the creator. So if the absolute cheapest way is, well, Rumble Rants 100% goes to us, and others. What do we have? We're
going to get into this. We're going to get into Watergate, which the reason I'm mentioning the book fund is it allows me to get all these Watergate books and prepare for the meetup next week in Youngstown regarding Watergate, which is going to be our topic because it'll be the 50th anniversary from 1974 to 2024 in March. Where the trials begin. We're going to bring in our old friend G. Gordon Liddy, who has a lot to say about this. Judge Sirica, Sam Irvin from the great state of North Carolina. It's going to be a greatest hits album of people that you haven't heard about in 50 years. I had to start watching. I watched a movie last night starring Liam Neeson called Mark Felt. I don't know. This is written and
Wow.
directed by Peter Landsman, who is one of our old deep state writer directors. I don't know if you remember Peter Landsman, Eric, from a previous episode. He wrote and directed Parkland, the anti-JFK movie about the hospital. He also did Concussion, the football movie.
Was he a CIA in Hollywood?
No, he is a writer-director who came from the New York Times, who came up with phony stories and was outed. He went from the New York Times to Hollywood overnight, became a writer-director. He actually wrote, but did not direct, Kill the Messenger with Jeremy Renner, which is a pretty good movie. He also did Concussion, and he did Parkland, about Parkland Hospital, deep state movie that actually had 2 CIA consultants on it, one more than I've ever seen. He then did this movie about Mark Felt, who was Deep Throat from the FBI, and then never worked again. And I said, and I started to look him up last week. I said, what the F happened to Peter Landsman? He's now a political activist, and he's and he made a lot of money in Hollywood. Nobody walks away, when you're 50 years old, from writing and directing in Hollywood. But Peter Landsman, I think he was told your career is done. They brought him back for the Mark Felt movie. And in there, it's a similar companion piece to All the President's Men. So you'll see similar scenes in both movies. But I've been getting into this to prepare for the meetup next week in Youngstown, where we're going to get deep into Watergate and possibly the conspiracy and the coup d'etat to take down Richard Nixon.
Wow. No, amazing. Okay. And Ginny's getting inky with it. It's not your fault, Ginny. She said, I tried, Eric. I chose those words regarding.
No, I'm sorry. I'm a loose cannon.
It's like it gets excited. It's like, whoa, no. But you know what? While you're excited, where's your bell?
Oh, yeah. Let me find the bell of justice here, because the bell may end up, YouTube may be happy if we get more subscribers. But first, I just wanted to read a couple of snaps. I pulled this book out. I haven't looked at it in a long time. These are urban snaps that we used to do growing up as kids. Different cities have different names for it. The dozens, cutting people. You'd sit around or you would say no mothers allowed. You couldn't rank on your mother. But this guy I know put out this book. This was in the 90s, the early 90s. He put out this book. This is the 3rd edition of Snaps. I'll give you an example. Say your mother is so fat she thinks gravy is a beverage, Hunley. Okay. Okay. So let me just give you a couple. You're so poor, they ask for ID even when you pay cash. Your family is so poor, your mother's perfume is Glade. You're so poor, I went into your house, flushed the toilet, and your mother screamed, "What happened to the punch bowl?" You're so poor, you put free samples on layaway. Your family is so poor, when you found 2 boxes, you said, "Now I have a 2-story house." Hello. Your family is so poor, I asked where the bathroom was, and your mother said 5th bucket on the right. You're so poor, when I went to hang up a picture on your wall, the nail went straight through the cardboard and into the street. Whoa! Your brother is so poor, he has to pull his teeth with bookmarks. You're so poor, bums give you money. Your father is so poor, he shaves with a broken Thunderbird bottle. And anyway, they're broken into subjects, and it's just wonderful. I hadn't read these in years. There's so much fun. This is the 3rd edition, called Triple Snaps. Highly recommended and it broken up into various categories. Some of them I can't go into, but
I'll have to put a link to it.
Yeah, put a link up, because these are just wonderful. Just wonderful subject dividers of different snaps, which we used to call, ranking each other out. That was our phrase for it in Brooklyn. But it's every city in the country had these for years. And hold on, the movie pick of the week, Raging Bull. This is the DVD, 2 DVD set. Fantastic, remastered, 4K. Highly recommended. One of the greatest movies ever made. And was nominated for about 8 Oscars, took 2. Thelma Schoonmaker, the editor, and of course Jake LaMotta, portrayed by the original Jake LaMotta, portrayed by Robert De Niro. No fan of the show, but still an amazing performance, because he has to, and he fought with Chardoff on this, and Irwin Winkler, the 2 producers. They had to stop production so De Niro could go to Italy, eat pasta, and gain 60 pounds, Eric, and then come back as the bloated, later in the story, Jake LaMotta. from putting on the 60 pounds. And they were not happy about stopping production on this movie for him to do it. They wanted to use prosthetic devices and he refused. But fantastic movie. I hadn't watched it in years. Spectacular remaster of it. Highly recommended. Raging Bull.
All right, so you got the bell ready, and really quickly.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
We crossed 108,000.
What?
Finally, today we crossed 108,000. So
I'm exhausted.
Let's see. Let's see if we can. We're working on the next 1,000 over the next month. So,
dude, if we could get to 150, some normal amount, or I'm not embarrassed to be stuck on 107, 109, 103. Let's see if this works. You ready? And there it is. There's the opening bell, my friends. You know the fighters. He fights Sugar Ray Robinson. He fights him 4 times in the span of a year. So there's a bunch of Sugar Ray Robinson fights in there, which I believe is depicted by Eddie Mustafa Mohammed. They use all real boxers in Raging Bull, and I think the Sugar Ray Robinson is Eddie Mustafa Mohammed, if I remember correctly.
Wow, amazing!
This is for boxing fans out there.
All right. Well, last super chat before we head over to locals. Soltron says, "How's that Silent Coup book, Mark? I'm pretty sure I've seen it for sale at a library near me for 50 cents.
I don't know. I just got it the other day. I haven't read it yet, so we'll let you know.
I think you paid less than Mark did.
Whatever. You definitely did. Yeah.
50 cents. That's just cruel. Now, you see that? I hate it when they pick on us like that.
I don't know what the picking is. I got to read the book. So, yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to head over to locals for the after party. It's free to follow us.
Who's over there? Remember, is 50 Cent over there? 50 Cent over there?
No, I don't know. He's quiet if he is.
P. Diddy?
P. Diddy something, or P. Diddling, or P. something. I have no idea, but consider heading over there. There's a link in the description, both YouTube, Rumble, otherwise, or just go to unstructured.locals.com. And we're going to finish up there, answer some questions, and
talk about the secrets of Youngstown, Ohio, where we hope to see all you. Well, by next Friday, we're not going to be here. We're going to be there.
Nope. I'll be on the road.
I just figured that out. Oh,
yeah, we're almost.
I got to fly United on one of those crazy planes. Are those grounded? Those planes?
Dude, I don't know.
There's one that went off the runway today, apparently.
Better you than me right now. I'm driving.
That's really helpful.
I'm here for you, Mark.
That's really supportive.
Yep.
I really appreciate that.
Of course, that's what we do. We're supporting that work.
All right, I'm going to go.